So I never do this, but this summer, I'm actually opening up 2 slots for private coaching to work one-on-one with me. And this specific opportunity is geared toward leaders who find themselves questioning their purpose and are unsure of what their next chapter in life will be. They're essentially at a crossroads and they want more out of life and are just tired of following the rules. They want to trailblaze their own path and live life on their terms without risking their credibility in the marketplace. Does this sound like you? Well, look, coming from corporate, I have over 2 decades of experience and I understand the sacrifices, the risks, darling, and the game that you're forced to play in order to be taken seriously or worse, accepted. You've worn the mask, dressed the part, talked the talk, and from the outside looking in, you've made it. Yet, you're unhappy. You don't want to fake it anymore, and deep down, you know that you're destined for more. I've trained over 20,000 leaders on how to use their uniqueness and their magic to build a life of influence, purpose, and freedom. A life where they don't need a vacation to escape or feel alive. A life that is exciting and peaceful at the same time. So if you're listening to this and it resonates and it's speaking to your heart and ready to transform your life, expand into the unknown, and explore the beautiful parts of you that have been hidden for far too long, I invite you to complete the application to participate in this private coaching opportunity. This is going to be super high touch, very white glove kind of experience. So once the 2 slots are taken, they're gone. So if you're interested, I will put the application link in the show notes. Make sure to apply, check that out. I can't wait to hear about your goals and where we are going to take your life next. So cheers to your renewed life. Before we do anything in this life, if we are going to truly transform, we have to be real with ourselves and transparent enough to know when things come up for us. Before we go out and seek external validation, we have to be our own best friend. We have to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and talk to ourselves in a positive way. Embrace our cultura as a competitive advantage versus an Achilles heel. I believe that feedback is a gift. Whoever is able to remain true to themselves and not allow the hate to deter them, but actually propel them, are the ones who win. What's up, mi gente? Welcome back to Banking on Cultura. I am your host, Victoria Jenn Rodriguez, and I hope you're having an amazing summer. I'm really excited to chat with you today because this summer, so far, I've had the opportunity to speak in front of so many amazing audiences, and most recently I had the pleasure of speaking at Deutsche Bank, Alpha of New York, the Association of Latino Professionals for America, hosted an event for the women in their community, and I had the honor to deliver a keynote for over 200 Latinas and allies, and my theme was Empower. And the feedback that I've received has been so amazing that I decided to not only make it a training during Hispanic Heritage Month, which is coming up September 15th through October 15th, but also I wanted to make a podcast episode so that my audience here can get the gems and hopefully feel empowered and powerful and unstoppable. That is the era that I am in, and that is the era that I want to transfer over to you. So yes, shout out to the soft girl era, all the things, but I'm approaching my unstoppable era. And I want to share some clips from this keynote, and I hope that it lands with you. Come back to this episode and check in frequently if you need a quick pick-me-up or if you need to be reminded of your badassery. That is the purpose of this episode. So my theme was Empower, and what I decided to do was I decided to use each letter of the word and share a story of my background given the letter of the word. So I'm gonna walk you through what that looked like, and I hope it lands. So here we go, guys. So E, engage. So when I started my career on Wall Street, I was the only Latina on the trading floor. I was the youngest Latina on the trading floor, and I was one of 5 women on the trading floor. This was back in 2008, 2009, right after I graduated college. And I was working directly with brokers and managing high net worth accounts. High net worth accounts are individuals who have a high net worth, right? They're folks who make tons of money. And so they have these accounts at these different firms where they allow these brokers to manage investments on their behalf. So one day, a broker asked me to look up a client's account. So when I go to look up the client's account, the first name was spelled as Joel. And I said, okay, cool. Last name, Epstein. So when I look at the account, I check for what I needed to check for. I walk over to the broker and I say, hey, I looked up Joel Epstein's account and it looks like he has enough money in his portfolio to take advantage of the investment that you recommended. And I'll never forget what happened next. The broker turned around, looked at me with a smirk, then started laughing hysterically. And I'm like, what the hell is so funny? Now, mind you, the trading desk is an open floor format, so everybody can hear and see what's happening in this moment. He then proceeds to say to me, what, are you stupid? Do you not know how to read? The name on the account is Joel Epstein. I said, Joel Epstein. Now, in that moment, one of 2 things could have happened. I could have, taken his word and I could have started to cry, run to the bathroom. I could have had all this self-doubt take over me. But what I decided to do was walk back to my desk. And because, again, it's an open floor format, so I had speakers on my desk. I put my speaker volume all the way up. And I asked Google to spell the name Joel, right? Because, listen, I don't know a Joel, but I sure as hell know a Joel, okay? Because my primo's name, my cousin's name is Joel, and it is spelled as Joel. So as Google begins to recite the spelling of Joel in Spanish and then provide the historical context of the name, I look over to the broker, and very quickly, his smirk that he had has now turned into almost like an expression of confusion. That is what I saw on his face. So I walked over to him and I said, hey, listen, it looks like this was an incredible opportunity for us both. I've never met a Joel and you've never met a Joel, but that does not mean that the 2 do not exist. And I truly believe in that moment that he gained a new respect for me. And he began to treat me differently. And in fact, to this day, he and I are friends. He actually manages one of my accounts right now. But if I had decided not to engage with him, but instead go sit at my desk and pout, I would have never built a new level of confidence within myself. And also, I would have never used the opportunity to engage and educate this person about my cultura, right? About my cousin, Joel, Joel. So engage. Next, mindset. So right now, with so much political unrest and so much economic turmoil and so much self-doubt and ambiguity that each of us are still carrying with us post-pandemic, during the pandemic, a lot of us were forced to kind of think about who we were, why we are, what legacy we wanted, what type of life we wanted to live. And some of us are still stuck in that space where we're having this identity crisis, right? Especially for Latinos, we're like, are we American? Are we Latino? Are we not Latino enough? Are we not American enough? Right? And so we're experiencing this identity crisis that is leading us to have these moments of self-doubt, make us insecure, and lead us to feel remnants of imposter syndrome. And I've spoken about this framework on previous episodes, but I'm going to share my imposter syndrome framework again, which is called the Don't Panic framework. And I actually have a free workbook for you guys. I'll put it in the link. It is an imposter syndrome workbook that helps you eliminate your imposter syndrome, but also helps you as a journal so that you can start journaling these things when you start to experience imposter syndrome and work through this framework, okay? So first part of the framework is self-awareness. Before we do anything in this life, if we are going to truly transform, we have to be real with ourselves and transparent enough to know when things come up for us. And so identifying, when do those moments of self-doubt come up the most? Is it when you're about to deliver a keynote? Is it when you're about to enter a room and you're the only person of color or you're the only woman in the room? Like, when does it come up for you? Because if you're self-aware enough to know, then you can prepare in advance. Next, each of us should have a badassery committee. Now, this committee is made up of 5 to 7 people that you trust, that know your history, have seen you put in the sweat equity, understand your accolades, so that in your moments of self-doubt or when you feel like imposter syndrome is creeping in, you can call on them to remind you of your badassery. You can call on them to remind you of the magic and the aura and the skills that you bring to this world, right? We all need those people in our lives. So make sure you have members on that committee. Mirror real talk. Before we go out and seek external validation, we have to be our own best friend. We have to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and talk to ourselves in a positive way. And be our own cheerleader before we call on others to do that for us. We have to get very intimate with ourselves. We have to love on ourselves because that is what is going to allow us to walk into spaces and own the spaces that we walk into. Celebrate wins. Now, I know a lot of my listeners and audience here on Banking on Cultura, we're ambitious folk. Okay, we get things done. We have big, audacious goals and dreams, and our aspirations are huge. We know how to do things to reach a new level in our lives. We're executors. But at the same time, whenever we reach a new goal, we find ourselves always putting a new goal ahead of that goal, and we're just never satisfied. We're always just reaching. We're never feeling satisfied with where we are and content with where we are. And celebrating your small wins is going to help you to maintain that gratitude and just feel thankful for every single win, whether that's you making your bed in the morning, that's you sending your kid off to school with a healthy lunch, going for a walk, hitting the gym, whatever it is, celebrating each win, regardless of how small or big you think it is in your head. Because the reality is that there are people who wish that they were in your position. There are people who wish that they accomplish what you have accomplished. So never forget to celebrate all of your wins. Next, P stands for purpose. So some of you might have heard this story, but when I turned 40, I was in a place where I felt a little lost. I was unanchored. I felt like there were too many questions that did not have answers. And I just wasn't in a place where I felt clear on what the future held and what I wanted this next decade in my life to represent. So I found myself in Costa Rica, and it was there that I grew a tremendous amount of self-awareness. It was there that I connected with myself in ways that I've never had before. I was more spiritually connected than ever before, and God spoke to me when I was in Costa Rica. And I was told that I needed to double down on my community. I needed to provide the resources. I needed to provide the tools to my community so that they can break generational curses to build generational wealth. And that is how Banking on Cultura was born. I saw a gap in my community, and I wanted to use my gifts and also be used as a vessel to share these strategies, to share these tools so that all of us can pursue financial freedom in ways that we never thought possible before, and also embrace our cultura as a competitive advantage versus an Achilles heel, because many of us are carrying so much preconditioning. And so when we walk into spaces, we're kind of pretending to be something that we're not, or we're assimilating so much so that we check ourselves at the door and leave our most competitive asset, which is our cultura, which is our upbringing, which is our experiences. We check it at the door because we think that that is the only way to succeed. I also started banking on Cultura so that we can be a hub for organizations to learn how to do business with us, how to talk to us, how to market to us. Because quite frankly, honey, they just don't know. They don't know. They try to put us all into a box. They don't understand how beautiful and complex our cultura and community really is.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Check out www.victoriajen.com/training to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go. So O stands for opportunities. So 7 years ago, I was heading up talent management for Johnson & Johnson. And I was asked to relocate to Tampa, Florida. Now, you guys know, Tampa, no shade to Tampa, but I'm definitely more of a Miami girl. And so, I bowed out, took my severance, thank you so much, and I went on the hunt for a new gig. My entrepreneurship journey is not traditional in the sense where I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. This was always the plan. I was the first one in my family to start a business, the first one in my family to graduate from college, the first one in my family to make 6 figures. So I didn't have access to people who were entrepreneurs. I didn't know what opportunities lied there. I didn't even know that that was an option for me, right? So after going on several interviews, making it to final rounds, not able to close, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I like to consider myself a closer. So I took it as a sign from God that I needed to bet on myself. I had savings. And I said, you know what? Worst case scenario, I can always go back to corporate. I was there for 15 years. I have an incredible network in corporate. I know how to interview for a gig. I know how to get things done. So worst case, I can always go back. And 7 years later, I haven't looked back. Now, a couple of months into my entrepreneurship journey, I had let the world know that I was in business. It was all over my LinkedIn. It was all over my social media. Like, this was a thing. I was going to go all in. I was invited to this invite-only dinner held by the Latino Hive. Shout out to Richard and my Hive familia. And who was sitting at the table? This last person that I interviewed with in corporate. And I said, this is interesting. So I very much am a fan of always collecting constructive criticism. I believe that feedback is a gift, whether we want to hear it or not, whether we agree with it or not. And so when I saw this gentleman sitting at the table, I was encouraged to ask him for the feedback, to find out like what happened. And I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. Let me go ask and just see. So I went up to him and I said, hey, I'm just curious. Why didn't you offer me the job? Like, why didn't I get it? And he said, it just wasn't a cultural fit. However, I see that you have started your business. Let's figure out how I can help you with that. And it was at that moment that I was like, wow, like once you decide to pull the trigger and bet on you, like the universe just pays attention and lines you up. And thankfully and gratefully and just, I am just so honored that his company has been a partner of mine since I started my business 7 years ago. But that happened because I was willing to create an opportunity. I allowed for there to be an opportunity and space for him and I to connect. Opportunities, we have to create them. W stands for work ethic. Now, Cardi B is one of my favorite artists. Not only is she super talented, but what I really admire about her is when she first came on the scene, homegirl was shamed, okay? She was judged, she was ridiculed, she was called every single name in the book, ghetto, ratchet, all the things. And whether you agree with that or not, she decided to use that hate and that doubt as fuel to accelerate her to the next level in her career. And so she worked her ass off. She didn't allow the naysayers to hold her back. She actually used it as inspiration to double down and move even more swiftly to achieve her goals. And now she's one of the most successful rappers and Latina rappers of this generation. She is literally the prime example of what can happen when you truly embrace your authenticity and work your ass off. Work your ass off, because when you do that, nobody can deny your success. Nobody can prevent you from tapping in to your God-given gift and living up to your potential, because there are no shortcuts out here. But whoever works the hardest, whoever markets the best, whoever is able to remain true to themselves and not allow the hate to deter them, but actually propel them, are the ones who win. E stands for education. I never in my wildest dreams thought that when I became an entrepreneur, I would be essentially paying for my own education, my own professional development. I have spent over 30 grand on coaches before. I have invested so much money in my business, into this podcast, into my coaching programs, into building my brand, into remaining a student. I've never been so studious in my entire life. Even when I was in school, at college, I have never been this studious in my entire life, because I know that knowledge is what's going to separate me from the competition. And what I also know is I need to remain humble enough to know that I don't know everything. I need to go to the experts and pay them so that I can accelerate my learning curve, right? I'm not trying to sit around and try to go to Google University and YouTube University and try to figure things out on my own. No, I want to pay the expert who has the formula, who did what I want to do, pay them so that I can get where I'm trying to go that much faster. Education. R stands for resilience. Latinos are the most resilient people on the planet. And I'm going to tell you why. We literally come from a lineage of get-it-doners, of risk takers, of people who have made something out of nothing, Many of us are in this country because we've had family members migrate here with no money in their pockets, had a language barrier, and also had to adapt culturally so that we can have the opportunities that we have today. Resiliency literally resides within our DNA. Our ancestors have passed that down from generation to generation. What's up, mi gente? Y'all know I like to keep things spicy, which is why when I invite the girls over for some bonchinche, I always have a stash of sun chips chili lime on deck because they're sure to bring the heat to any fiesta. The delicious flavors of red chili lime peppers and zesty lime on a satisfyingly crunchy chip is not only the perfect balance of citrus and spice, but it also perfectly describes my friends and I. With 100% whole grains and no artificial flavors, Sun Chips Chili Lime makes for the best chisme snack to get the night going. Grab a bag of Sun Chips Chili Lime today, available at retailers nationwide. To make things easy, just check out sunchips.com to find a store near you. We are a people that continuously remains passionate, remains resilient, and we don't ever give up. That's not who we are. That's not what our history represents. And so whenever you feel like you are in a dark hole, or you feel like you're stuck and you're unsure of the light at the end of the tunnel, I want you to remember that you come from a lineage of people who make shit happen. When their back is up against the wall, when there were no more options, they just kept going and made it to the other side. And some even risked their lives so that you can just keep going. Resilience. Understand that the world needs the special gifts that you have to offer. Empower means to engage, to have a strong mindset, to find purpose, create opportunities, double down on your work ethic, remain a student, always seek out education, and above all else, remain resilient. Now, there's something that I want to say about purpose, because many of us are in a place where we feel like we have no purpose. Like, what is our purpose, right? And we might be feeling unfulfilled. We might be feeling like we're just gone with the wind, fabulous, like we don't have direction. We don't have anything that defines us, and we're just kind of like going with the flow. And when I went to Costa Rica to find my purpose, what I learned is that purpose is an evolution. Just like we as people constantly evolve, we constantly are growing. Who you were last year is not who you are today. That is the same case with purpose. Purpose will continuously evolve. So it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay if you can't answer the question, what is your purpose? Because it will change. What my purpose was 15 years ago when I first started my career in corporate is not what my purpose is today, right? My purpose back then was to have financial freedom, to make as much money as I could. My purpose today is now to help other women make as much money as they can and help them get comfortable in their skin. My purpose is also to mobilize my community to own their cultura, right? Own their history. That wasn't my purpose back then. It took time. It took discovery. It took making mistakes. It took operating in ambiguity. It took asking myself the difficult questions of who I am and why I am and what do I really want, without the noise of social media, without the noise of seeking advisement from anyone else. But using my own advice, trusting my gut, and giving myself permission to trust myself is what allowed me to find this purpose. However, 2 years from now, my purpose could shift, and that's okay. So give yourself grace if you haven't been able to nail it down and you just feel like you're surrounded by people who have it figured out. Well, here's a hot tip. None of us have it figured out. We are all figuring it out as we go. And that's a super fact. Whoever you are idolizing, whoever you look to and think that, wow, they just got it all together. Just know that behind the scenes, they're insecure too. The only difference between them and you might be that they're doing it scared, that they're showing up anyway. They're allowing themselves to make the mistakes. They're okay with failing in public. They don't allow what people have to say about the decisions that they make to deter them. They listen to themselves. They trust themselves. And they just keep going. So I want to end this episode with a question. And this is the same question that I asked the audience before I ended my keynote earlier this week. And it's a super powerful question. It is a question that I had to ask myself. It is a question that I continue to ask myself all the time. And if you need to journal on this question, I highly encourage you to do so. Use the imposter syndrome journal that I will link in the show notes. But take the time to reflect on this. It's okay if you don't have the answer. It's okay if you don't know. But I want you to sit back and really give yourself the opportunity to reflect on this question. Okay? So here's the question, y'all. Would you rather settle for a life where others identify and dictate to you what success looks like? Or would you rather live a life that is bold, that is audacious, that is brave, that is true to you, that is empowered, that is a life that you are destined to live? Ask yourself that question. And if you need to revisit that question often, please do so. As I said, I do so all the time. It's very easy for us to kind of just get in the mix of things and forget ourselves, forget who we are, forget our dreams, forget our goals, because we're constantly fed information and we constantly have this crazy sensory overload where we start thinking that other people's goals, aspirations, lifestyle, journey is what we should be envisioning for ourselves, or else there's something wrong with us because they seem to have figured out their path. So I encourage you, in fact, I challenge you to listen to yourself. And if you need to go away, like I did, hop on a plane, go to Costa Rica, or it's a staycation, just give yourself time to be with yourself alone. Be with yourself alone. Sit with the yucky feelings. Sit with the flaws. Sit with the mistakes. Sit with the regrets. Because on the other side of all of that are all of the answers you are seeking, and also the freedom that you want. The freedom to have a less heavy mind, to be physically fit, to be spiritually aligned, to feel alive again. That's when the magic happens, when you sit down and become one with yourself. All right, guys, that is my time. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you found value in this episode, please make sure to leave us a review, rate us, leave comments, all the things. I love hearing from you guys. And until next time, know that I love you so, so, so much. Mwah. Besitos. Mi gente, I need your help. Look, the real game behind podcasts is we need to really understand our demo, aka you, our audience, so that when we go out to sponsors who help us put on this amazing show and deliver this content to you, that they can clearly understand who we serve and what is significant to you and what you value. And the only way for us to get that information is for you to give it to us. So we just created this survey. I'll put it in the show notes. It will take you less than 3 minutes, literally, but it will be so helpful for us to get a better understanding of what it is that you care about, what's important to you, what do you value, so that when we're out in these streets trying to secure the big bag and get sponsors for this show, they know exactly who our audience is and what you care about. So we can bring you the best products, we can bring you the best organizations that are out here serving the cultura, the community, you. So please take a moment and fill out the survey. I'll link it in the show notes. Appreciate you. Mi gente, did you enjoy this episode? Are you loving Banking on Cultura? Make sure to subscribe and follow us. Our goal is to grow this community so that we can all embrace our Latinidad, secure the big bag, and never question our cultura ever again. Please also take a moment to leave us a review. I love reading your reviews. Let me know what you are thinking, what guests we should have on, and if there are any topics you would like me to cover. I appreciate you so much for being here. Te amo mucho, and I'll check you out in the next episode.